Yeah. Everyone, thank you for joining our opening talk of the exhibition Memes from Slavistan. And I'm going to introduce you the curators of the exhibition who will talk today and who will tell you what was behind the exhibition and what is the different perspectives on memes and Slavistan, as we call it. So first of them is Vasilis Economou. He's a public relation officer, senior writer, industry reporter of the cineeurope.org. This is leading European portal about cinematography. And he is collaborating and was collaborating with different film festivals like Tallinn Black Nights International Film Festival, Odessa International Film Festival, Antalya Film Forum he was Antalya Film Forum consultant, and also took part at Locarno Film Festival. Hello, Vasilis.
Hello, too many titles, but yeah, I'm here mainly as a meme curator, so we will focus on that. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you, and I hope we will have a great chat.
And the second curator of the exhibition is Vladan Petkovic, who is also a journalist, film critic, and festival programmer, translator, correspondent for Cine Europa, and programmer for different film festivals like Zagreb Docs, Skopje Film Festival, and FEKK in Ljubljana. Hello, Vladan.
Anastasia, hi everybody, thank you for joining us.
So we will start with such a general question: why exactly memes? Why exactly memes about Slavic countries? Because memes and film cinematography, this connection is not that obvious. Maybe you can tell why exactly you decided to do an exhibition about that.
Vasilis, do you want to take it or should I?
You can start and I can pitch in.
Yes, yeah, sure. I'll start. Well, it's I agree. On one hand, it's not obvious, but it very easily becomes obvious, as you can see. It's how we came up with this. Actually, it was Helen Gerritsen, the head of GoEast, who came up with the idea because she saw that Vasilis and I were sharing a lot of these memes to each other on Facebook. It's kind of a inside joke that, but because of the nature of Facebook, everybody can see it, and the stuff we share is public. So this inspired her to ask us if we wanted to do an exhibition for GoEast, which was supposed to be like a more regular gallery type exhibition. And then, we said yes. And so it turned out to be an online exhibition, which is, of course, different from the one that we imagined originally. And it could have, maybe we'll talk about it later, about various forms of memes. But yeah, so now we made this website. We didn't make the website, we did the content, and the designer made the website. So now we have this online and more people will be able to see it, which is great on one hand. On the other, maybe people will start hating us. I would also like to give another little disclaimer about the video that you saw in the beginning. I hope this band, which is called Los Colorados, they are a Ukrainian band and they make their own music, but they're most famous for these covers. I hope they will not sue us or that Rammstein won't sue us. So this is if they are listening, this is me telling them, don't sue us, please.
Yeah, I think with this exhibition, we are walking in this very thin edge of getting sued or offend people, or I don't know, feeling like the obligation to explain some things. But we will go through these details. I think the main reason why we also accepted it was because we like the idea of having the title of meme curators or meme experts. So that was quite appealing. But also, yeah, as Vladan mentioned, memes we've used, at least between us and also among other friends, it was a way of expressing some common ideas, some common themes that we share in different countries, not necessarily Slavic, like I'm Greek, still some references are very common to my culture. And also we realized if we go to the more cinematic or more festival life, that also friends and people that are coming from the same region or close by, they could understand, they could get that references, or they would say to us like, oh, I can understand that, or I can see that in my country or my culture. So it became slowly like as a common language or a referential language that we used. And yeah, now we are here in this online exhibition, and we also are curious to see how people will receive it.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned language, because what I have noticed with memes, that somehow from this domain of internet and just pictures, they switch into the real life and people start talking with the phrase that they see there. And this is also an interesting aspect. Like before it was the quotes from movies, now it's going to be the quotes from memes. Do you think it's true? Do you think it's kind of turning into a folklore, or it still remains separate from?
I can follow up on that. I think, yeah, I think that's true. And also, it's not only about the language. It's of course like some quotes or some running memes that people use them and adapt them to different situations. So it's like some classics, like with the angry cat, or with some other people that we see them in different situations. They just adapt and they change. But especially for the Slavic memes, I think it was very interesting when we have been in Slavic countries and we visited places, and sometimes we have seen the actual memes or the actual themes happen in front of us. Like it was part of living in this Slavistan. And at least for me, in some cases, it was like a revelation. Like, okay, this is not just a picture on the that I see online. It actually happens in front of me. So this is also interesting. This is like a more somehow like a meta reality that the fictional meme meets the actual reality around us.
Yeah, it is, as Vasily said, it is this sort of meta-reality, but it's also becoming a language in its own. And as Anastasia said, we used to take quotes from movies, now we take them from memes, which is also, movies are a way of representing reality. This is just, in a way, more immediate because and easier to spread because it's on social networks. And they come from life. It's I mean, okay, Vasilis is an honorary Slav as a Greek person, but he's very knowledgeable about Slavic culture and every field of life. So this is yeah, you see these things. I grew up in Serbia, and a lot of this is, and now I live in Croatia, another Slavic country. So and I travel a lot around the Slavic countries. So these are really things. Sometimes, of course, they are exacerbated. They are amplified and maybe made more comical, like a caricature. But this is all really based in reality. And we tried to mix this, what is coming from life, into memes, and how memes are in turn influencing pop culture and these phenomena that are becoming more, for instance, this Slavic mentality. And these examples, like I don't know, this was a good example. The video that we saw, it shows really very Slavic set design. So these things are also good for cultures, to getting introduced to other cultures, as long as you don't take it too seriously. I hope this is clear, that it's always that the primary function of this is a joke. It's to make you laugh and to think of something and inspire you to maybe research more about particular themes.
Yeah, that's the next thing I wanted to ask, because in Frame from Go East, there will be also another talk about violence in films and on screen, but I think it's also important, this topic about cynicism and also some kind of violence that is overall in memes. And do you think this is that major of the people who see them understand this is kind of a joke, and do they take it seriously, what is happening there?
I think if you don't, if someone doesn't get this is a joke, then I think they are not aware of what it is. So this is similarly to violence in movies. It's to me, it's sort of how would I say, an empty argument that violence in movies would make someone else violent. It's been proved and debunked, and that this does not really work like this. Of course, if someone is, I'm talking about, how would I say, regular people. If someone has a mental problem or is in their own right, something may maybe push them, but it's definitely not that movies or memes or commercials or music videos or video games, they don't put weapons in people's hands.
Also, I agree on what Vladan stated, and I also think that memes sometimes are a bit more like a cynical version of joking about crucial things. I mean, there are topics of that also, of course, include violence. They might be more non-political correct subjects, more aggressive subjects, historical or about religion. So I think it's a way somehow to, I don't know, in the case, at least in the real life, as I said before, that we use the memes or we use these themes as a topic of discussion, even with people that normally should never be friends with or should never be connected with, if we get historical or other or religious reasons. It's a way also to amplify and somehow to balance these differences. And I think, yes, violence be depicted, but also you can understand where are the connections with the other culture that you think it's too far away, but in reality is similar to yours. And I think at least talking as Greek now is we use humor and we use this kind of cynicism in order to tame down these more important subjects. And seeing that this is a common language for other people, I think this brings serious topics closer, and you can then later discuss and chat about them in a more less stressed way.
Yeah, I think humor is really important, and it has been shown so many times. For instance, in our region as well, that this is a way to fight problems and to stay sane in crazy situations. And sometimes, of course, this humor will be borderline with something that may be offensive or what would not be politically correct. And then we have differences, which are, there are differences between different societies. And Slavic societies are, I think, less sensitive to politically incorrect stuff. And this translates into these memes as well. And there is always this border, which is kind of, I don't know, I post a lot of memes on Facebook. I try not to offend anyone, and I think this rarely happens. And this is more of a feeling what is okay to put out there and what is not. It also depends a lot on the context. And Facebook, for instance, has its own rules as well. So some things just don't go. And I don't think there's a single recipe for what is what cannot be shown and what can be shown, except, of course, for some really obvious extremes.
Yeah, I see. And also another thing which is can be so problematic. I think there's this is stereotypes, and I wanted to share on the screen one of the memes that we had in one of the category, and maybe you can give some comments on it and how does it refer to stereotypes. It comes, and it says here. So this was in East versus West category. Do you see? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I should say I know this perfectly. This coffee and I don't know 5 cigarettes before breakfast. And what was funny as well, I was watching a Croatian TV series, and was also, you couldn't distinguish the series from any other Hollywood or just American series by anything except this fact that the heroes were always smoking in the screen. Do you think this is right, that it somehow show the stereotypes so strongly? And do you think it's not somehow promoting them, that people think, oh yeah, those Slavic people, they only smoke and drink coffee?
Well, did you see, were you watching a newspaper on Netflix?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, especially in this, with this particular series, there is another stereotype in the game, and this is journalists and press and political situation. And so it is this is an kind of an old convention that you show someone being nervous by them lighting another cigarette, and everybody knows that political journalists smoke a lot. So there are these stereotypes as well. But I think stereotypes can be very harmful. I mean, that's absolutely true. But they also they did not just appear out of nowhere. They are based on something. And as long as the context is right, and we understand how stereotypes can be used also against stereotypes themselves by putting them in a proper context. Like, for instance, this meme that we had, which is one of the tamer one of the less provocative ones. I think that, well, personally, this stereotypes fits me. This is my breakfast. And in Slavic countries, smoking laws are not everywhere that harsh as in the West, especially in the Balkans, they're much more relaxed. So people keep smoking, I guess. So this is this example that you gave is pretty tame and really easy to defend. So because it's about this breakfast, and so it's not only Slavic. I think that in other cultures that maybe we don't have so much touch with through social media. Like, I don't have many friends in sub-Saharan Africa or in the Far East, but I'm sure that they also see themselves in a way compared to the West if they're being humorous similarly to this. So I could imagine a meme in Nigeria saying Nigerian breakfast and having the top three the same.
Yeah, I think I will agree on what Vladan mentioned. And regarding at least this, first about the stereotypes, I'm also a journalist and I never smoked in my life, so I think I don't fit the stereotype. At the same time,
you're a cyborg, Vasilis.
That's another topic. On the other hand, as Vladan mentioned, regarding this breakfast joke, starting from that, personally, I think none of my friends can start their day without a couple of cigarettes and coffee. So this is this is a part of stereotype and part of reality, somehow they're mixing. Okay, maybe it's not as exaggerated as we depict it, and it's one of the tamest stereotypes I think we used. But yeah, I think this is part. This exaggeration comes out of regular observation, and I remember when I was doing a small research on some memes that for me that I can adapt or I can understand something of the Slavic stereotypes, let's say. They were still supposed to be funny, and I was showing some of these memes to friends, And they were like, okay, where's the fun? This is like, I've done that as a child, or I've been through that, or where is the joke? So it is a bit, so somehow the stereotype and the joke sometimes doesn't fit to what we perceive as in the Western culture, or in the Western political correct and non-offensive way of expressing or approaching other cultures or other people. And also I think that the region generally is more, can accept more of this teasing and this more upfront, let's say, criticism or stereotypes, because they can understand, okay, they might have a laugh on that, and then they will understand, okay, yes, this is part of me. So I think at least in our case, doesn't work as harshly as it might work in more Western societies, or I don't know how other societies might react in these subjects.
Yeah, then I have one more meme, which is maybe a little bit more provocative about stereotypes and has a little bit more to do also with family topic. And this is the next one. Yeah, so it was also in East-West category, but I think it also suits very well the family thing in the way of upbringing. And this is also a topic I wanted to discuss because as far as I know, in the West, the connection between children and parents is much more distant. It's not that like children have to visit their grandmas every week, or call them at least. They can call them once a year and it's fine. Or, I don't know, report your mom, how was your day? But in the way the children are abroad, it's different. And what can you say? And how is it also reflecting the memes? And maybe it's also somehow the reason why the Slavic humor is a bit more cynic than any other memes.
Maybe Vasilis would start because he picked this meme, but I'll give it first. Yeah, there is. I think this is very much connected. I mean, it's family turned out to be like the most frequent category. Maybe it's not the category where we have the most memes, but it really overlaps into other categories. And this is, I guess, natural because that's where we get our first ideas, and the way we are brought up and things we like start from there, and things we don't like. So yeah, I think that it is. I mean, I'm sure that statistics show that young people in Eastern Europe stay with their families much longer than young people in Western Europe. So partially there are economic reasons for this, but also it is a thing of mentality and the things that society is used to. So in this case, I think, I mean, this meme refers really to a relationship between parents and children, which we like to make a stereotype out of. I mean, people in Slavic cultures, we like to pretend that we are tougher, so and that we are, and that Western people are too delicate and too careful, and that they fuss too much about things like political correctness, safety, you know, little unimportant things like that. So this is really a good example of a joke that comes from mentality and is combined with the stereotype. This particular meme that show, which was, yeah. And also there is a bunch of honorary Slavs listed there. Maybe Vasilis can fill us in on that.
Yes, no, I think we call like the tiger mom stereotype that we have from the East, the Far East, or China, I think. I think this could be also applicable to the Balkan, also to the Mediterranean mentality. It's not only, I mean, for the honorary Slavs, you can also easily add some more Mediterranean countries that were not listed there. Because it is exactly this mentality of being tougher, of being better, and also as usually family is the main school or the main field where someone will learn about society, about how to adapt to difficult situations or how to survive. basically. I think that these the families are somehow, or and I can say that mostly it's mothers that do that, because despite the outside perception that the societies seem more patriarchic, I think that most of the societies are really matriarchic in our region. I think these are, they take it as a responsibility to bring their children to the toughness, like learning how to swim. This is like, actually, in my case, this was not a meme. It was actually happened when I was, first time when I tried to swim in at the sea. I mean, that was it. I didn't have any proper lessons, or I didn't go to any pool or anything. That was it. We just were on holidays, and one day we said, okay, time to swim. So yeah, for me, it seems like a joke, but it seems at the same time it is a reality, again, as with the stereotypes. So I think this is a straightforward, still caring way of families to upbring their children and still be able to survive in the harsher societies that we have to live in, compared, again, if we play with stereotypes, to the more delicate and the more safe and the more organized societies that West is, or we perceive that is. So this is another play. That's why on the same topic on East versus West, we see also the perception of the West from the East side, and also how West perceives the East. So I think in both cases, both societies are wrong for each other.
Yeah, I think we are just. I'd like to fill in on this. It's a when we are describing stereotypes, what we are dealing with there is actually a superficial look at a particular topic or event or something that is it is impossible to learn in depth details about every culture, every item, everything that happens, and stereotypes are a sort of a shortcut to there. And sometimes these are relatively accurate, but sometimes they are really completely wrong. Sometimes they go against our the reality goes against our expectations as they are displayed through these stereotypes. So yeah, it can be a tricky ground, but also it can, you know, if people are aware that that we are not being serious, and that we do not claim that all people from those 12 flags in this photo throw their children into the water and make parents were much gentler, and my way of learning to swim was closer to the one depicted for the Western nations. Then it's as long as we know the context and we are on the same level of understanding, I think it's that we are not in danger. It's completely wrong, and that is actually incorrect. True would maybe be the right way to put it.
Yeah, and as Vasilis mentioned about matriarchy, I would like to show next meme, which is actually describing this role of mother, which is so central, as I think, in the whole culture. It's somehow, yeah, we always hear that in Eastern Europe, in Balkan, the women are beaten and they are raped, but they like it. But at the same time, this is a central figure which actually decides everything. I remember myself being in Ukraine, and I overheard a lady talking on the phone, and she said she left her office before, and she got a call about some job stuff, and she said, no, I need to go to the beauty salon because I need to do a makeup. And at the same time, I couldn't imagine a lady in Germany doing that because she has to earn her living. And so there in Eastern Europe, the women are a bit more relaxed, so they know that their back is covered. But somehow it puts them in a more dependent position, but at the same time they enjoy it. Do you think what is your perspective on this not so important topic of feminism there as well?
I think that the role of women in Eastern society, I think it's, of course, the perception as you described it, it's one side. On the other hand, in many of these countries, women had been more independent because they, even during the socialist period, they were working. They could easily have some different positions in the society. They could lead. They could be directors. They could be. So I think the perception of how women are treated and how they are the role in the general aspect, in the wider aspect, is different from the perception that we get in the West. That yes, in the case of that meme of the tough love that mothers express, this doesn't mean that mothers don't care or they don't accept or they don't appreciate when their children are expressing their love, but they know deeper inside that there's something more in this expression of love, because also this goes back to the toughness as we described before, that it's very hard when people, especially from the Balkans and maybe for more Slavic countries, when they're especially men and boys, when they try to express love or they try to do that, they are not taught to do that. So this is they are not they present themselves as being less tough, more vulnerable, more open. So there is always this hidden agenda and this hidden discussion. Okay, you express these feelings. What do you need? So it's of course an exaggeration, but at some point it is somehow a way of, again, hidden communication, maybe not direct communication, a different language.
This meme in particular is exactly me and my mom. So I feel it.
Also mine.
Yeah. So this is yeah, because this is now pretty complex altogether, the question where it comes from. I'll try to kind of break it down. So in this case, it's, you know, it refers to this close relationship that we have inside the family, but which is also in a way sort of an inside joke in the family. So it's not like this closeness in the family doesn't mean that we are saying all the time to each other that we love each other. So when I need something, I am not gonna call my mom by her name, but I'm going to say mom, and then she's immediately gonna know I want something. So this is also sort of, this is more of a sort of a relationship that is between friends than in what we would traditionally expect in a family. And as for the patriarchy issue and the position of women, I think this is pretty tricky. I think we are in let's say that at least us who are now discussing here, we have our own bubble, which is probably quite progressive, intellectual, urban, and so on. And we may not even know people around us who are, I'm not saying that only rural people will abuse women, not at all, but it's something that's maybe more expected. And when we hear stories of this, sometimes we are surprised if something like this is happening right next to us, and that we didn't know that our close friends have this in their family or something like that. So, but what we were referring to with the about the position of women is really what Vasily said, that it's actually this idea of housewife is not that widespread in the Slavic world, and usually unless husband is very rich, then everybody has to work for the family to make a living. So in this sense, I think, yeah. And another important thing is that women are very important in the family, and they bring some decisions, but especially on the practical level, on the everyday level. And it's because I would say they care more about every element of the household. But this doesn't mean that they will have an upper hand over husband when it's about stuff that he cares about. So if it's about money, if it's about family budget and so on, it's still very much patriarchal. And I think I hope that we made this relatively clear in these memes that refer to this. I would just like not to I wouldn't like to disparage or minimize the idea of I mean the not the idea the position of a woman in the family and in the society, because I think this is a worldwide issue, global issue, historic issue that we are only recently really getting a hang of, and that while we are making jokes, we still need to be aware that there is a real problem in the society world, and that we're beginning to understand.
Yeah, exactly. And from the selection of memes that we have, and the next one that will be shown yet now, we can see that the role of men is also very special, and the dads and men in general in Slavic society have such an image that they know better. That's why on this meme we see that there is somebody coming from outside the family to fix something, and that's why the dad don't like that somebody knows better how to fix something. From my childhood, I can also say that when somebody else other than my father was fixing something, it was also something weird for the whole family. And it was like, why do we have to do that?
Yeah, it is weird, and it's I see myself as this guy in this meme. So I feel this sort of to I'm not a very technical person. I can fix stuff with sound because I used to be a sound engineer, and I have a pretty good hang of the computer, but I wouldn't know how to fix the AC or the refrigerator or the washing machine. But this is also part of Slavic mentality, I think, and more widely Eastern European, that the man needs to at least look like he knows what's going on. So I would, if the guy comes to service my AC, I'm gonna hang around and look and ask a couple of questions and be really interested, so that I can confirm my male status in this household.
Yeah, it seems a bit also not offensive, but it seems a bit awkward. Like if a technician comes and you're not there present and pretending that you understand what he's doing, even if it's like completely out of your knowledge, out of your somehow it's exactly, it's about the, I think again going back to the stereotypes of being tough, knowing things, and you also have to prove it. I mean, especially if the technician comes when your family is around, you should prove that, okay, I cannot fix it myself, but it's not like I don't care. I'm there, I'm learning, or I'm observing, and I might also after when he leaves, when the technician leaves, I can explain that to you. Like somehow this is my field. So for men, yeah, this could happen like even when you have to fix your car, or when you always have to be next, or something that you have no idea, like a plumber arrives or something, you should pretend, or at least you should show up that you are the person who is in charge of that, even if you are not really. So yeah, still the role seems more active. Of course, it's more passive because you don't do anything. And at the same time, as Anastasia mentioned, that it's an issue also for the family. Like, oh, there's something that we cannot fix. We should call someone outsider to come and fix it for us. So someone has to. There's this mentality that someone has to not protect exactly, but has to be there because he has to be sure that. That the person arrives, does his job, and also when he leaves and before paying him, that everything works. So this is somehow the role of the husband, the role of the man, because then if the technician or someone who fixes something leaves and nothing works or there is a problem, then he's the one to be blamed for.
It's also, yeah, you have to, this is the idea of overseeing what he does. Mm-hmm. So that he doesn't swindle us, so that he doesn't put an old part in. Not that I would know how this part looks, but me being there maybe means he'll be more careful.
Yeah, you pretend that you know that everything is, you know, the brands, you know exactly
where this piece fits into the plumbing system. where does this pipe go and that pipe, and is this pipe old, or is it going to last for 5 years or 10 years? I will pretend that I know this. So, and of course, every proper technician will know that I have no idea what I'm talking about, but at least I have an alibi to myself and my family.
Yeah, and I think from this perspective comes the whole section Slavic science that we have, because there are so many this creative decisions that people make, just not to ask somebody professional, but to fix themselves. And this picture that we used as a kind of a poster for our exhibition with R2D2 coming to Eastern Europe and turning into a vodka machine. This is also kind of them. And the next one, which is very up to date, also shows somehow of these creative decisions, which I'm not sure if it's coming only from this perspective of knowing better and trying to fix everything themselves, or it's also having some kind of economical background. What would you say?
This also comes, I should start and mention that this is from a Romanian news show, and it's part of our honorary Slavs, because some of these memes are not by Slavic country, are not coming from Slavic countries. So Romania is one of these countries that is not officially Slavic, of course, but still share this mentality, or at least in our perspective. I think this is knowing better part that is totally expressed in the Slavic science, is also part of this proof that we know better, and it's awkward if someone else knows better than us. I think, maybe I'm wrong because I don't remember now by heart, but I think almost all, or maybe most of the memes are men who are doing something stupid or something without safety, without any protection, or at least even when you see the results, you assume that this was made by a man. So this is also a common thing that maybe men can do this extra step of proving themselves, the role or whatever. And in most of the cases, of course, it's not the case of a real thing or of a real achievement. But they somehow have to prove themselves that they can do better than people that are the official people that they know, they have studied, or they have been prepared for this in this field. So yes, that Slavic science is, and in that also I have to mention that in that section we had so many memes to choose from, and we tried somehow to limit them, because it's one after the other, and in some cases some of them are pretty great ideas actually, but still they seem like out of this everything controlled and everything safe world that most of us in the West we live in.
The next one shows a very great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I will show it, and you can also comment on that probably. This was one of my favorite ones, I think.
That was one of those that I was thinking about. That was a great idea, and also Vladan agrees on that. That's one of my favorites as well. Yes,
I love this solution, and it's like the previous meme with these people on TV with bags on their heads. We don't know what's going on there. I didn't even try to translate what's written on the screen, but it's what I see. This is something that I find really sympathetic, and it's also sort of refers to a let's say civilizational level. So it doesn't matter what it looks like; it's working. This is the mentality behind this. So yeah, design, it's fine, cool. It looks better this way, but this is cheaper and does the same thing, and we will always go for that. It's this mentality that it comes from. So yeah, this this conditioning system is incredible. I just don't know how really effective it is. We should try it, but I'm not sure you get so much air from those two parts of the pipe that comes in. But yeah, we should test it in the real life. But yeah, this kind of thing is it's kind of endearing to me. And although the Romanian TV hosts are really not safe with those bags on their heads, at least they're not getting corona.
Yes, and also to add up a bit on what Vladan said, apart from having the fear that the technician or someone who fixes something might scam us. It's also this anti-corporational mentality that we know better and we can do better, cheaper, and more efficient. So yeah, it's like this 1 million, the idea of worth 1 million that no one has ever thought, and instead of paying more, we can do that cheaply and still be efficient. So I think this is the whole mentality in most of the cases of Slavic science.
Yeah, that's it. And I think we could talk really a lot about what is it stereotypical, what is not, and how we interrelate it to the West and East, and how it's reflected in memes. But we probably discussed most of the things, and the rest of it is clearly described and very interestingly depicted in our exhibition. And maybe now it's a good time to start for our showers, for those who look, ask the questions, and we will start answering them. And we have audio one. And yeah, it sounds so. What about the stereotypes in the exhibition category Slavic science? I think we talked about it, kind of, but maybe you can add something on it.
We just discussed that. I think it's. I mean, if there is more to this question, please ask whoever sent this question, because I think we've kind of answered it.
And I think again, talking about stereotypes, at least one of the memes that is included, but it was not now on the discussion, but it's on the website. The one that is an air condition that is shared between 2 rooms. Actually, I'm not. That's why we didn't credit that. This is an actual picture, and I think this is in Crete. So this could be an honorary Slav meme, but since I was not sure about the source of it, I didn't put it. So it's not only about stereotypes. It was like a room that 2 rooms actually in Crete that and whoever have been during summertime in some places it can easily reach 40 degrees for no reason. That someone decided that it's more efficient to 2 rooms to share 1 air condition. So the stereotypes are also part of again of reality. So yeah, in some cases I think this the reality overlaps this fiction that we are presenting there.
Yeah, it's this entrepreneurial spirit, and of course saving money. And I'm sure this person, so this is probably like a holiday house, right? They're renting it out during summer.
Yeah, it was a holiday house, and I think I don't remember the credits, so I could not put the credits there. But I'm pretty sure it was a holiday house. So the owner of the house, of I don't know, maybe an Airbnb or something like that, decided this is a good idea to save some money.
Yeah, there's a question that came in to explain honorary Slavs a bit more, so we can take it from here. We didn't really explain it. So yeah, this is we wrote this in the text, but it's so honorary Slavs are, we can even say which nations these are, but they are mostly, so it's Greeks, Turks, Hungarians, Romanians. Also, as Vasily said, wider Mediterranean area, also North Africa and Israel too, and Caucasus countries. So these are not Slavic nations, but they share mentality, also history and traditions, thanks to the old Arabic and Turkish expansions. And on the other hand, we have the influence of Soviet Union, which was huge in the 20th century, and basically all Slavic countries were in this communist system. So there are these influences from history and tradition that mix and produce this very similar way of thinking. It's also, if we go back to cigarettes, this is also where people smoke more than in other countries in Europe. So there are these traditions and ideas that overlap and that are shared and transferred from culture to culture. So that's why we have the honorary Slavs, because there are really, really funny memes coming from Romania or Hungary or Turkey, referring to them. So, and we recognize this same sort of spirit in them.
Yes, practically, historically speaking, let's say there was like countries that had been under the influence either of Soviet Union or the Ottoman Empire, more or less, and somehow this is what we at least try to explain as a Slavic mentality in a very stereotypical way, again, in a very funny way, I think. It is this mix of these two cultures, more or less, like this Ottoman, more Middle Eastern mentality meets the Soviet. That of course there was a difference in the periods, and we're not going there, and we're not exploring that. But this is something that, and we see a similar pattern. I mean, as Vladan said, if we show some of these pictures and some memes to people that are not officially Slavs, or by any term, they could recognize some parts of their lives, some parts of themselves. So this works. So we thought that this is fair to not to limit ourselves to the Slavistan by 100% countries that belong to that, but also to expand a bit more. So we are a bit more. We're trying to expand our nation again more and more, and this is a very common thing among our countries. All of the countries have a greater versions of themselves. So this is another game.
We have three more questions. One of them is, what can Westerners learn from Eastern Europe from memes, and where to start?
You will learn nothing. You will just have fun. Start from the beginning on our website. No, I'm kidding. I'm hoping that Westerners can. This was our goal to really show how this spirit and mentality works, and doesn't. This is not something that's straightforward explanation for everything. This is more a combination of associations with this way of thinking that comes out. So you from memes you don't learn facts, and we are not trying to show any facts or any historicals or anything like that. It's more to maybe feel what it means to be Slavic. Maybe that's a way to put it in a mental way.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's this is, don't learn from memes. There's a much bigger chance that you will learn wrong. So you will learn from you will learn more from reading books and watching films that actually have something to say. These are just comments on stuff that we perceive as interesting or fun, and that can help you maybe understand the stuff that is in films or in books better. Maybe it can help in this way, but please don't learn from memes. It's wrong. They are not an educational material.
Yeah, and continuing on this disclaimer of people not getting offended or thinking that we are doing something it was a professional work for us, or it was a fun work for us. But of course, by no means we're not sociologists, we're not historians. We are trying somehow to explain things that we observe and things that, as Vladan said, things that are around ourselves, and we are trying somehow to transfer them or communicate them to the West. So yeah, you should not learn from that. No, forget it. But at least you will get, maybe you can, I think the only useful thing would be sometimes if you meet your Eastern friends, you can make more fun of some stereotypes that you might didn't know before. So this could also work.
Yeah, I think the best way to learn about Slavic culture is to hang out with Slavs. That's definitely the best way. So yeah. And yeah, as Vasily said, we are completely incompetent, so don't count on us to learn anything.
The next question is, who makes these memes and where do they come from?
This is a very good and very complex question, which can actually be a topic for another panel. But it's look at it like at jokes. So it's very hard to tell where they originate. There is in the introduction text on the website, I'm sorry, we have listed some resources that you can use to find the origin of particular memes, but it's really hard to find out who came up with a particular meme.
And another question was, one second, why you portrait in your memes West Europe as Disneyland?
Okay.
Yeah, this is another sort of misconception that, well, we didn't make the memes, we found them. And why did we pick this one? It's very effective. It's both funny and creepy. It has a universal character put into different contexts, and through this it tries to relay this sort of a civilizational difference. So we didn't make it, but we found it, and we thought it's a good example because it's so convincing.
Yeah, it enhances also these stereotypes. I mean, for the Eastern perspective, that West seems like Disneyland compared to the lives that they have in the East, and vice versa. I think even Westerners might think that they are living in a society that is Disneylandish or that advanced. Compared, so it is like this is a very. I think I agree with Vladan again that this is a very effective meme, and by the end. Nowhere is that creepy as the Eastern version portrays, and nowhere is that joyful and crazy as the Disneyland part portrays. But still, people from these different, let's say, split societies, still there are still people that are considering that one is the other and vice versa. So this is also interesting.
The next question was, it was more like a comment about the second question. Wouldn't it be funny idea for Westerners to learn to laugh about themselves from Eastern Europeans?
Oh, I think we actually, I think I learned to laugh about myself from the British, from Monty Python. So I don't think we invented this. Maybe it's more natural for Eastern people to do this because maybe they don't take themselves so seriously.
Yeah, as Greek, I'm not going to claim that we invented comedy or sarcasm or humor. Yes, I won't do that. But yeah, I think also that there are memes that for Westerners that are equally making fun, or maybe they're playing the same jokes. Or, for example, as a fact, the main the Star Wars meme that we used as the cover of our exhibition. When I was looking for another version of it, I found the same meme as I think Kentucky. So Americans use the same exact meme for Kentucky to believe for the production of whiskey. We used it for the production of rakia or vodka. So it's in other cases the same exact picture with a different code or a different reference was used in for Westerners. So probably the same subject with slightly different context could work equally for any society. So we are just
same stereotypes that are just translated into another culture. So if we could imagine that in the United States they consider people from the South, which would definitely be Kentucky, Alabama, North Carolina, and so on, that they would consider them more of, how would they put it, redneck, and they would be the Slavs of the United States. And plus, of course, bourbon is made in Kentucky. So this is a natural translation of the meme. I think each culture has their own Slavs. That's maybe a way to put it.
So we can include American rednecks as honorary Slavs easily.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
And as we have only around 2 minutes left, we'll answer one last question. And it sounds, could it be perceived offensive if people from West created those memes? And is the background of a person relevant here?
What was the last part?
Yeah, is the background of a person relevant here? Perceived offensive if people from the West created those memes? Well, we don't know who created them. That's one important thing. And if you're referring to the idea, I think this is maybe kind of a mirror of an idea that, for instance, a black man can say for himself that he's a nigger, but it's offensive if white as nigger. I think this is not exactly the right parallel, and we don't know where memes come from exactly. So I wouldn't be offended if there was a really funny and really true Slavic meme made by someone I know is a Western person. So I don't think that's I don't think that this is the point. I mean, I think people get really offended very easily nowadays to everything, and I'm not the one to be speaking against political correctness, but I think it's the basic thing is about not taking yourself too seriously. This is the main prerequisite for sanity, I think, above all.
And also, just to add up on that, in many of these memes, when we found them on Facebook, there were comments under them. It was many times. There were many times that other people from different backgrounds, they were starting a fight, an online fight, of being offended by something that was mentioned there. So even without knowing what was the origin of the memes or who created them, people still can get offended. Not like, as we mentioned, we perceive them and we use them as a language to make fun of the things and communicate and find more connections than things that divide us. And but still, people that might get this more serious, regardless of the origin of or the creator, can still fight about and can still argue and can still feel offended. So I don't think it's a matter of who creates or the creator. I think it's a matter of your personal perspective. And if you can get something from that and feel more open and accept something, that's also something that you can learn from us, from our memes or our selection.
Yeah, I think if I knew that some very funny meme was made by Western, I would only give him the Medal of Honorary Slav for noticing that. It wouldn't be that offensive.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I will be impressed and happy that he or she will understand that well my mentality and can make this reference. So yeah, this could work. So I would never find this offensive. I would find it more intriguing, and maybe it could be easily like a reason to open a discussion or to find out why he or she knows that well instead of making fun of something else. So yeah, this could be also a cultural exchange. And also, I should add that when we initially had this idea of when we got this invitation to curate this meme exhibition, and when we thought that this could be actually taking place during the festival, we thought it would be also a good, this discussion would happen with audience, and it would be a good way to break some boundaries and open up and feel more connected in the cultural and through stereotypes, yes, but to a way that will somehow limit these differences, and we can bring more people, if it's possible, together. That would be something that is great.
Yeah, I think too. Well, thank you a lot for the talk. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. And let us stay not so serious and a little bit ironic to ourselves. And I hope all of the people who watched our opening will now proceed to the vernissage of our exhibition and scroll through the website and read those interesting tags that we have there. And I wish you a nice evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hope everybody will click now on this exhibition and find out more memes to explore, and yeah, and then maybe rewatch this discussion and might find more answers.
Yeah, take a look at it. I hope that it's at least a bit fun and informative, and that the idea is to give you maybe a wider context, which would help understand films from Eastern Europe that are being screened in the festival.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
See ya.